Welcome back to German Chocolate Life of a Mixed Girl, to this special series called Stunt Talk. And today I am very, 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 very excited because I have one of the co hosts of one of my top three current favorite podcasts. Yes, it is
What?
true. It is very true.
What?
You are on my top three, maybe even two.
Oh, that's awesome.
Paul Varacchi. He is the co-host of Film Fights with Friends. Like, doesn't matter if you're in the industry, you're interested in industry, a stunt performer, or anything else. These guys, the way they talk, it makes you feel like you're right there. They leave a whole bunch of knowledge there, a whole bunch of fun, and it makes you laugh. But it also helps when you're like driving or doing work because they're like their voices are like perfect to just do any kind of task and still be present.
Oh, thanks so much.
I am totally fangirling over here, which you know a lot about fangirling too with your
For sure.
interests. And you're also the co-owner of Breakfall Studios in New York,
Yes.
which I also had the pleasure of being there. Steve was there when I was taking a workshop. You are a stunt performer, which is why you're here, but you're also a Krav Maga instructor, which I think it's a really funny combo. And I'm curious about it in a little bit that yours is Krav Maga and Steve has Sambo, and how the two of you somehow got together.
Sure. Yeah, there's actually a great story for that. I mean, if you we can start there if you want, because
Yes.
that's technically kind of the beginning of our journey, of how we got started into stunts. So, um I have been technically, and I still am, so I have been a student of Steve's for going on to 20 years now. So I started off, with my instructor who was a student of his, brought me over to New York Combat Sambo, that long ago. And my journey took me to a few different places and brought me to Israel where I got certified, to teach Krav Maga, and then I came
Wow.
back here. So I was already with Steve before my Krav Maga journey, but um I moved to away to New Jersey to help open up a gelato place.
Which, because you are a chef, you
Yes.
are a chef. Very good
Yes.
for celebrities, even. If you listen to the pilot
Yes.
episode of their podcast, if you want to know more, that is definitely something. We're going to get into how all of that happened. But yes, continue.
So yeah, so I was opening a gelato place, and so obviously I had a separation from New York Combat Samba because they were in New York, I was in New Jersey, and that trek was a little much. And so during that separation, I was always looking for something to get back into, but there was just something about the sport of it all that kept, I just kept on telling myself, I'm like, if I put a guy in an arm bar on the street, someone's going to come over and hit me in the face because my hands are occupied. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a target of what we would call in Krav Maga is a target of opportunity when you know, your face is a target of opportunity. So I was always trying to find something that um made sense. And there was a this series on TV called the Human Weapon. And Steve was actually in it, and that was why I was watching it because I
Oh,
knew
wow.
Steve. So I was watching it for Steve's episode, but there was an episode on Krav Maga. And in the episode, they go and they talk to a guy named Itai Gil. And they also go into the desert and they train with this group in Netanya. So, and then that was how I found out what Krav Maga was. And I was like, fuck, that's what I want to do. That makes sense to me. This is, so I found a guy in New York named James Sherman that was connected to Etai and, worked with him for a while and, and then finally Etai was going to come to America and he was doing a whole big thing. And then, this, that story's out there. I'm not going to really go too far into that, but I ended up getting certified. And then when I ended up coming back to Steve and going into how I, viewed self-defense and some of the changes and the adjustments that I made to the training that we had in Israel to working with a jacket, working, with things. The one thing I noticed, like when I was in Israel, is that it's like, oh, you guys train in the desert a lot. You're in short sleeves. Well, in New York, we use jackets. So a lot of the wrist rolling stuff or whatever that they would show wasn't very effective, because if somebody grabbed your jacket, sometimes you roll yourself tighter into it. So I would kind of just talk with Steve about how I thought, self-defense made sense, and he had the same views that I did. So from there, I kind of went back to being a student at New York Combat Sambo again. And then through that, just kind of, he ended up letting me teach, self-defense class. And then, that's ended up, being covering for him every once in a while, and to being a coach to one day, this guy named Doug Crosby was doing a stunt workshop, and he's like, dude, you should come with me. He's like, it'll be fun, because I was always a freaking nerd. You know what I mean? Like if you watch the show or the podcast, I'm a super nerd.
Which is why I'm
So
saying you know what fangirling is, like getting the
yeah,
autographs of
oh
people
fuck
on
yeah,
the little box.
absolutely. And it's so hard not to do it when you're working. It's so hard. Like it's really funny. I'll go off on a little bit, but it's really funny when you see someone you work with when you're waiting online at a convention, like a fan, and then they, in that moment, they kind of understand. I'm like, yeah, I don't shit where I eat. And they
Yeah.
really do appreciate that. You know what I mean? And that moment, and they're like, yeah, I would have never known on set. So,
Yeah, I'm always
but
like, don't look, just like go hi.
oh
Like
no,
to everyone
sometimes
else,
sometimes
just like
I have no problem talking to somebody. That's just human. But obviously, read the fucking room.
oh yeah, 100%.
When you're on
100%.
set, read the room. Some people don't like to be talked to. Some people like to be, treated like a normal human being and have their balls busted like they're, like, they're anybody else. Um, it all depends.
I'll be like that
Um,
Japanese baseball player. I will like just have a translator. Ja, ja, genau, das können wir so machen. Ja. And then they translate, and then I'm like, oh yeah, what's up? And they're like, you speak English this whole time? Then you use that. It's
that's
like,
really
sorry, I
funny.
don't speak any English.
That's hilarious. So yeah, and then he's like, "Hey, let's go do a workshop." And we went to this workshop run by a guy named Doug Crosby, and we basically, got a lot of information there, and we got to play a couple of parts, play a couple of drunk guys having a fight and had it recorded, and I mean, we just had a lot of fun. And Steve and I were really good at reacting, and we were really good at hitting the
I
ground.
was just thinking about that, especially because you come from a martial arts background and you hear a lot of people say that it's actually more difficult to train them. It's
Well,
easier to train
yes,
dancers because
it
of that.
is. And I can even get into that difficult part, without a doubt. It is very difficult because there's an acting aspect. And sometimes you have to act like you don't know martial arts. And that was very hard for me to get the hang of on my first, job, even though it was only a previs. And then it took me until afterwards. I know the story's out there. And I had a discussion with a guy who's now a great director, Don Lee. He sat down and he talked to me and said a few things to me that have stuck with me to this day, and that have always helped me find the character that I need to be, which has basically been like, dude, you need to be the guy that you teach your students to stay away from.
Oh,
And when he said that, he saw the look on my face. He laughed and he goes, "You just understood everything I've been trying to tell you for 4 fucking days, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I'm glad you got it." He goes, "I wish you got it 4 days ago." He's like, "But I'm glad you got it."
for real, red or
And he
late
goes,
than
and
never.
also he goes, "I wouldn't take the time to say this to you." He goes, "If I didn't think you weren't gonna, if you were gonna go anywhere." He goes, "I would have been happy that we were done with these 4 days and walked the fucking away and been like, I am never gonna see this guy again."
Yeah. Oh man, that's really the worst. Especially, I must say, because I'm German, we're pretty honest people,
Hmm.
and in America, people rather want to be nice, and sometimes it makes it so difficult because you don't know where you're at with people. I rather people be honest than
Well,
just be nice.
especially when it comes to camera stuff, because the camera doesn't lie. So if people lie to you about the camera, it's really, really doing you a disservice for when someone decides to not lie to you.
Yeah, I'm also a very technical person, so sometimes I really like when somebody can say like I think I'm doing one thing and you think you're doing it great and they're like, oh, it wasn't quite right. And then you're like, well, what wasn't right? But some people can be like, oh, your arm wasn't fully extended or
Mhm.
something. And to just say it and that clicks like more immediately. So I like it. And then I'll also remember it because it'll stick because I can connect the dots versus just like, oh, that wasn't right. Was it just a fluke or was it something else? So some people
Well,
are really good also with knowing what they wanted and what they didn't.
it's also, and this is why Steve and I, we talk about it, but learn how to edit. Learn how to make the camera and the eye see the same thing because they don't.
Oh, 100%. This year, I had a goal when everything was going slow. I was making scenes, and one of them we ended up turning with a group of people I was doing with into a short film that we then submitted to festivals. And it was just a whole nother ball game. And I don't know which episode I was just listening to from you guys, but you were talking about maybe when I listened back to the pilot one about the camera op if they're able also to know what they need to shoot. We had that
Yes.
problem with
Yes. If
one of the
you,
ones we had to direct them more like, oh, this is how you can
Mhm.
that you see the don't see the fake and you got to go from this angle or move that way versus the other guy kind of had more experience with it. So
Right.
how much do you have to direct it and how much does maybe a certain action camera guy already know how to
Yeah,
move?
I remember the first time that I had to cover coordinate, and it was on the Good Fight. It was Krav Maga scene. It was kind of Krav Maga. Not only was it a Krav Maga scene, it was a Krav Maga instructor scene. It was, yeah, I mean, come on. So, you know, it was around the first kiss, and it was around all this stuff. But what was very interesting is um when you're doing the movements and you're like and the camera's there and I'm coming up with the choreo, I didn't care about the fight. I didn't care about what moves were in the fight. The first thing I thought about was, okay, how am I going to make this easy for the camera guy? Because you having starting and getting set experience, not just being a stunt person, being a PA, being security, doing this, and being in positions to where you can just sit there and shut your mouth and learn, you understand a lot of things. And the first thing that you learn to understand is that when you're coming up with a scene, again, how does the camera work? And I didn't really know very much how the camera worked per se, but I knew how they didn't like to work,
Hmm,
which is very, very important to know. So I kept the entire fight on a 180-degree plane, so they could shoot it wherever they needed to, front, back, left, or right. I designed the whole fight to be shot from all sides.
that's awesome.
And then, so when he came up to me, he's like, "Hey, where did you design this to be?" And I was like, "Look, I shot it for you to be in front and back." I was like, "But technically, you can be anywhere because I left a lot of striking out. I left it all out so you don't have to worry about stacking shots or anything."
Hmm.
This is and the camera guy's just looking at me and he's like, "Wow."
Thank
He's like,
you.
"Dude, this is great." He's like, "Thank you." He's like, "I appreciate that." But it's also, certain things when, they're like, "Hey, can I push in tight here?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "Well," and it was my first time coordinating, and the double AJ for the number one was a very seasoned guy. So it was also nervous coordinating for someone who technically could kind of be doing that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So that was a bit, but such a supportive guy, such a great guy. Um, and the camera guy's like, "Hey, can I pull in tight here?" When she goes to throw this strike. And I was like, "Well, if the double is here, if the stunt double is here, yes, because she's technically trained and she's going to keep her elbow in tight, and you're fine." I go, "But the actress has got a lot of things on her mind. She's not technically trained. She's going to flare her elbow out, and her elbow is going to clip that camera."
Hmm.
And the camera guy was like, "Okay, great. Then we're not going to do it." And then, AJ comes to me, he goes, "Dude," he goes, "Great, great thing to just notice and say no to." He was like, "Wow." He's like, you know. So it's understanding things like that that are going to make your job easier and make you a success. It's not about the moves that you know, the things that you can show that have never been seen before on camera. Um, that's not that's not going to make you succeed at your job.
That makes total sense because I talk about this a lot because you also hear it a lot. Some people are like, you can be the best at something and never make it, but you can also be the worst and still make it. But it's
It's the only
nice
job
to,
I've ever been hired for Krav Maga.
oh, really?
Yeah.
You really don't hear that a lot. I feel like there was a time, I don't know, maybe like a decade ago where they used that for like women's self-defense in like skits a lot of times too, like, I know Krav Maga, don't mess with me. And that I feel like
Right.
that's
I
like the
so
main,
doing that. Yeah.
like where I like know Krav Maga from. I didn't know nothing else. I really looked it up when I said, "Oh, okay." Outside of that, I hadn't heard it, so I was looking it up when I saw that that's what you do, and I was like, "Wow, this is actually pretty badass." But the way they made it seem, I was like, "Oh, I guess it's just one of those
Just
things."
like anything, it has, it has its McDojos, it has its crap. Works equals works, and you just got to find the right people. You know.
Very true. So we kind of now went into what I like to call in this series the origin story. But what I find really interesting when I saw that you guys began your journey in 2014. So that's when all of that kind of happened with that. So
Mhm.
you were also technically a fully matured adult at that time,
Yes.
as I am. We're technically matured, we're adults. How was that for you going in, even though you did martial arts already and you can move, but transitioning for your body, your mindset, and going into a completely different industry? What was that like? And how did your
Yeah,
family also,
there's martial arts training, there's grappling training, there's different types of training. So people think martial arts, in their brain, they kind of, you know, Sambo is not that. Sambo is hard hitting, fighting, grappling, it's judo, it's a lot of things, and it's it's basically stunts where you hit each other.
hmm.
Where, that's kind of what the stuff that we do in the gym, right? We do all kinds of cool shit. You've seen Steve videos, the rolling Eminaris, the fireman's carries, all of this. When we do striking drills into a throw, it's choreography, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I took a judo for film class before, and that's when the Japanese like jujitsu kind of. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting because they do a lot of the standing and the throwing and stuff. And I do jujitsu and I do kung fu, so they're
Hmm.
totally two different things. And just connecting to that's why when you said martial arts, it's not martial arts. That clicked for me immediately because those two already are very different in training, mindset, and I feel like how my brain processes things too.
Hmm.
So that throwing part, I've always been curious when you see that in taekwondo and judo and stuff. Do you still seriously throw? Because we don't do that in kung fu, and then in jujitsu, it's mostly grappling or just getting someone underground most of the time in class. But actually throw and it kind of hurts, or is that what you're trying to say, that you're also carefully throwing how we do stunt throws?
No. So we throw.
Okay.
We throw with intent, but we don't. So let's just say, look, if we throw somebody, we're not going to land on you. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
going to do our best to make sure nobody gets injured, but we really throw you. The guy who's getting thrown, we do not appreciate it when they go with it.
So I guess on the other hand,
Breakfall,
knowing that you
yes.
can throw, yeah, that's what I was just curious when
Breakfall,
you're
falling
getting
safely,
thrown.
that's
Okay.
that's that's part of it.
Yeah.
But the throw in itself, normally when you're doing a stunt throw, there's a video of Steve and I out there when he does a drop shoulder throw with no arms. He just drops with his hands to his side, and I take the fall over the top of him. I think we did it for the Mission Impossible thing. It's in one of the Mission Impossible videos, um, and with Paramount or whatever. So, and because we were like, listen, it's not the guy doing the throw, it's the guy getting thrown.
Yeah, yeah,
He doesn't
yeah.
need to touch me to make it look like I've been thrown.
And that's what I find
That's
amazing
what we
about
do.
stunts. Yeah, that's what we do. Like
But
if you're getting
in the
thrown in
class, it's
any way.
absolutely opposite.
Mhm.
I want that guy that's being thrown to be fucking thrown and to hit the ground hard, but to know how to hit the ground right. That's that's martial arts.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. So you're definitely not then a stranger to even before you started bruises and getting some owies.
I have a bit of a history from before that. So, my stepfather was a piece of shit. So, the reason I got into the reason my coach started training me was the first day we started training. The first day I went in there to spar, he literally goes, "You can't fight for shit." He goes, "But you have great poise when you're getting hit."
Oh.
Because I didn't give a fuck because at that point I've been getting hit my whole life, so getting hit didn't bother me.
But that
So
might backs the question on one because part of what you were saying when you say how you had a love for movies, so was that from your biological dad then, or was it
yes,
still?
this is my stepfather who was an
Okay.
asshole. My biological father, our relationship was movies.
Because that really touched me because I have a 13-year-old son
Yeah.
and him and I like we love movies. Like when I go to the
Yeah.
movies, I don't go with my boyfriend. It's my son and I, and we love military movies and we love anime. Like we love anime and all of that stuff. So I'm like he's 13 now and I've done some stuff, but I can't wait, the next couple years, 3 years, because takes a while to finally do something big and then for it to come out to like go to the movies and share that's like one of the things that touches me the
I
most.
may get upset talking about this, but like in a good way. But like my dad passed a few years ago, but my whole collection, most of it is those movies that he and I loved.
Aw.
So a lot of the stuff, the Brotherhood of the Wolf stuff I talk about, Rollerball, those were like our favorite movies.
Oh
So yeah,
man.
that's a big thing
Oh, I
for
really
sure.
feel that. And I'm so sorry to hear that he
No,
passed
it's fine.
early
Like
in that, but yeah.
this is my love for my dad.
And that's like so beautiful if you like love someone that much and share something so deeply. It's actually one of those things that scares me the most if, when you get so hurt and you might die as a parent
Oh,
and
of
leave your
course.
child behind that loves you that much and you
Oh,
have such a
it's so
connection.
weird. Like some of the I was telling Steve yesterday, I go, man, I go, it's so fucked up that like, I have a 2.5-year-old and I'm like the things that you think about, you're like, oh, you want to be there forever, you know what I mean? You're already like, what's the wedding song? What's this? You're already fucking there, you know what I mean? But then like you have these weird thoughts where you're just like, I hope nothing happens, and if it does, I hope I'm long enough around to where she can remember me.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Like they say, he's
it's such a
13
fucking
now.
weird thing to think,
We always think about death as parents. Like from the moment like the kid is there, you're
right?
like, they don't get hurt, they might die, you might die. Everything's always about the worst case scenario. So I'm always like, he's 13. All right, so all right, at least he needs to be out of the house if something ever happens to me, be like on his own feet. And you think about all kinds of backup plans. And that's why I feel like stunt is a more calculated risk compared to other things. Like I'm ex-military
Well, if
and
you're
that's
with the
why.
right people, the risk is calculated.
Yeah, I know that's why it can be super super dangerous, which I guess that's why I see it from both sides of the table when you think about coordinators when they're new and they don't know you, they don't know how you're going to act and what happens and if the set's going to be safe, can you do your job? But if you don't know them, you also don't know if they're like, I just want to make the director happy, we're going to do this even if it's not safe. So the
Right.
main person I work with that got me my SAG card and my first couple of jobs, the stunt coordinator, he's always about safety. He'll always be like, we need extra time to look at this. We need extra things like padding. We need drive time. We need to check out this area and test it out. And I really love that he stands up for it because it can still be scary. He can,
Yeah.
be so stubborn in the sense that they don't want to work maybe with him anymore because he cares about safety too much. So it feels like it's very the weights, the scale, you got to feel everything and
Yeah, for
everyone
sure.
out a lot, but it's definitely more calculated because I got out of the military and then a year later I had my son and I've always wanted to join back again. I like loved everything about it. And I was like, maybe just police. And then I had signed up for police academy. I was about to like go take my test and I was like, I just can't. That's like
Mhm.
too dangerous and every day and it's me and him and it doesn't work. So that's why this is a little more. more calculated, and it's cool and something that we share. And that's why I'm so passionate. Like you, I have a full adult life background. So I've already done a whole bunch of stuff. So now being in this third part of life, I don't know what they call
Right?
it, you can go in and be like, I am going to make it work because that's what I want to do. And I've done everything else. So that for me, when you got in, how long, well, are you able to do this full time at this point? Or I have, okay, I'm going to break it up. I've heard when I was in New York that there is like a difference between New York stunt people and Hollywood stunt people. And they're like really different, and that maybe in Hollywood it might also be a little easier because there's more work to do it full time, and that the New Yorkers have to hustle more, so they're more like the workers.
I feel like that's kind of that mentality was, kind of like 10 years ago, but even then it was kind of on its way out. I think that there's a when you're first getting into the business, there's the New York, the LA kind of thing, but um majority of working stunt people, we work everywhere. If you're good and they need you, you get the call, they fly you out. Um, you know, I think that when you want to think of it as Hollywood, you think of LA, so you think that, that's where all of the real stunt people go, they go to work in LA. But the truth is that everybody goes to where the work is. Some people in LA move to Atlanta, and then when that's dry, they'll come to New York. So for me, I don't really like to say who's better and where in New York or LA. The greatest gymnast in the world can be from fucking Michigan.
Oh yeah,
You know what
I
I mean?
totally
And
agree. I was
just
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 very
because he lives in
curious.
LA doesn't mean that he's still not, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the way I look at
Well,
it,
you see it a little bit on Stunt Contact. So you guys been like talking a lot about it. Then the stunt coordinator that I work and train with, he's like, I was like, all right, I'm going to check this Stunt Contact out. So I like got a Stunt Contact, and then and you go through it the first time, and you're like, oh, cool, there's so much out there. But then you go and like 80% is like only local. Like, don't submit if you're literally not
Right.
here. You can't make it from East. They were like, one of them was
Well, a
interesting.
lot
He's
of
like, if
that
you live
is,
in New York, you cannot make it here tomorrow in LA.
well, yes, sometimes they're like local because, yeah, again, they need the job tomorrow, but a lot of people will have been like, I am not local, but I can be, being like, I have
Yeah.
a car to crash on and I'll get there.
Yeah, that's like me. I can work
Treat me like
local
I'm
out of
local.
a bunch of places. I have a upper west side address in New York. I have people in Chicago. I have tons of people in LA. Like I have people everywhere. So I'll be like, I have an address if you need an address, but a
Mhm.
lot of them will be like, hey, don't even submit. So I can see that once you know the coordinator, they're probably more willing for a lot of them to come out. But there are definitely a lot where they're like, I prefer, but for the right person to send out. So I can see once you're in it that you
Mhm.
can just fly out. I thought the coolest thing when you guys booked that gig, that project, which I don't know if you've done it already because I know your podcasts get recorded like early and then you send it out. The job that you got in LA that was like that LA job, and then they were thinking about doing it in New York, some project that I think you guys can't talk about, but you kind of said you put the hats in the ring and you ended up getting it, and you were supposed to fly to LA to make it work, and then they were like, when back, you guys can do it in New York. Um,
Oh yeah, no, we did that. That was the Mission Impossible thing I
oh,
mentioned
that
before.
was that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, we landed that. They came back and yeah, we did a whole big promo thing with them. It was great.
oh man, that is freaking awesome. That's like
Yeah.
I'm always like listening. It's like, okay, what's happening next? Awesome. That is so cool. Yeah. Working local for me also now. I'm excited to fly because I live in Florida. Like we don't really have anything. So even when it's southeast, it's usually Atlanta. And
Mhm.
Atlanta, even for acting, they're like very much Atlanta more than any city. I feel like Chicago has been pretty open in general. I guess there's just really not that many people, but New York and LA, I guess because there are so many people, you'll more get it. But I'm at least on the East Coast, so it has been fine in that way to be like,
Well, it's
hey,
been slow everywhere lately, you know.
if you were to compare that, so now from you started in like 2014, and oh, by the way, happy 10-year anniversary. 2015 in
Yep.
November is when Breakfall Studio opened, so
Yep.
happy anniversary.
Thank you.
But you've been in it so long, and then you had probably right that mark where everything was going smooth. I assume around that 5, 6 year mark, and then
Hmm.
COVID hit, then the
Hmm.
strike, the double strike, and now with all this being slow, where were you right when this strike hit compared to now? Like
So,
work.
I mean, when the strike, after COVID, when the strike hit to now, I'm guess I'm kind of in the same place. Um, I don't think work has really picked back up in New York since the double strike. The productions kind of they come in one by one, maybe two or three, and then another one or two comes in. It used to be seven, eight, nine, 10 shooting all at once, and then another they would come right in. Now it's two or three shooting a movie or two, maybe a series, but not a lot of stuff really going on at once.
Yeah, you really see a lot of Canada, then like you have the UK and a lot of Australia. I remember I talked to a stunt guy. He's like, yeah, when you guys' strike happened, we got all the work out here in Australia.
Hmm.
And it is so crazy because you do see like, wow, there's so much stuff happening. Finally, movies are back. I'm back on the A list so I can see more movies in
Well, I
Dolby.
think in the long run, when you strike, when you do things like this, you're not. I understand the reason why, but all you're really doing is forcing them to discover more options.
Yeah.
And then you're taking the risk of them, whether you get your contract or not coming back to you because they now have other options and you forced that upon them and you kind of did it to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like, because a lot of times it has to definitely be a middle ground. Like, yeah, you don't want to be bullied or completely underpaid, feel unsafe, all of these things. That's why it's nice to have, but also being able once again seeing it from both sides, just like a filmmaker, a director, a camera op for a performer, seeing some of the business side, like just trying to make a small short film, and your performers are all your friends, you don't have to pay them, and you're still spending thousands of dollars on that super short film that's 5 minutes long. So I get it that there people are trying to cut corners, but it's so crazy. They're like, we're flying everyone out to another country because it's so much cheaper than to shoot on the lot we already own. That's like kind of crazy. I really do hope there's like some middle and things come back because it does seem like a crazy time to get started in the
Yeah.
industry. But at the same time, because in German we have the saying geteiltes Leid ist halbes Leid, and it means shared misery, I guess, is half the misery. And it sounds really terrible, but in a sense, like you feel like maybe you're not doing enough and you're trying to hustle, do everything. But you see the people that are already in it also, they already have all the connections and the skills and all the credits, also don't have that much to cut yourself a little bit of slack to realize, all right, again, reading the room, this is just what it is right now. So for you, when it's slower, what do you put your focus on in the times that it's slower?
I mean, I'm a chef. I have a daughter, so I stay at home. I cook for my family. I have I cook part-time, when things are slow. I also do security work, so I try and do my best to keep the ball rolling and keep money coming in, best I can.
Yeah, that's a really, really good
I also
professions
have
then to have.
a whole, collectibles website and, or on Instagram and with one of my buddies who I met in production, Rocco. He's a nerd just like I am, so he and I, in our spare time we do tables at cons and stuff. So, that helps bring money in too.
Oh, that's yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm still in the phase where more investment than coming in. Whenever something comes in, it just kind of goes a little under the red, makes the red a
Hmm.
little better, but still there. But there's one thing, and I have not been able to do this one at the beginning, and I do feel like it's kind of nice in the middle at this point. But the icebreaker question that everybody gets is, what is in your stunt bag?
What's in my stunt bag? I mean, I would say I have um one set of uh, you know, shitty McDavid pads. Um, you know, um, I have one set of black compression sleeves, elbows, knees, compression shorts. Spot pads for all those areas from stunt bumpers.
Oh, nice. You
Um,
said stunt
I
pumpers?
stunt bumpers, yeah.
Huh.
So I have, spot pads, a whole set of pads from them, skin colored and black. Um, I have one set of hard pads in case I got to do a car hit or stairs. I have a back pad, obviously. I have all kinds of different tools. I have a Leatherman, a few different pairs of pliers. If you get cars, sometimes you got to take the brakes off or something.
Oh.
So, you always want to make sure you have a little bit of everything.
I'm curious, you said
Um,
for the stair falls,
I
especially you
even have
prefer the
like
hard
I
ones.
even just put in, sorry, I was going to say, even just put in like a Roby um tire pressure to have in my kit in case I got to do, so I can check my own tires and check their pressure and stuff.
That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, to think about driving what you can do because you really don't know what you're going to get. I had one driving job and the cars, all of them that we all had were crap.
Yeah, they're
But
shit. So yeah, I drove a car once and it was like I stopped at a red light and I looked at the guy next to me and I thought it was his car that was smoking and it was mine.
yeah, we had to get towed at the end of the day too because I was like, I'm on E. He was like, we're just gonna one more. I was like, all right. And then like we
Mm,
had to get
that's really
towed
funny.
because we ran out of gas. We had to close the freeway, and we were like in the middle of that stretch, and they were supposed to open the freeway again, and we are like, oh my god! But you said for the stair falls, you prefer the hard shell. So I've rolled down stairs tons of times already for in training because we had like a nice staircase at our gym, and I found that the hard ones they move a little too much. There's like some like space, and I found them to be really uncomfortable. So then I ended up using I guess softer ones because they just kind of sit tighter. So yeah,
So for my hards, I guess hard is a weird. I have like these really cool like um D30 pads, which is like it gets hard on impact, but they're actually kind of soft
ooh,
and they're like double sleeved. So it's like a compression sleeve and then another sleeve, and then the pads are in there and they don't really move very much. They're actually very quite tight. Um,
harder to impact. That is pretty cool because the like
almost
the ones I
almost
have,
like
they're
what
not
a
super
almost like
soft
what mountain
either.
bikers use now.
Okay,
Kind of like,
okay,
uh,
yeah.
and yeah, I use those for stair falls and they're awesome.
Ooh, that's a really good tip because the next thing I like am trying to collect from everyone, no matter what kind of skills they use or what they do, is in general, injury and prevention tips from either past experience, you're like, I'm not going to let that happen again. So you ended up doing XYZ as a precaution or something you've seen or thought of yourself that a way you want to protect yourself. So besides that, do you have anything that comes to mind?
Um, I think a lot of it really doesn't come to what's in your bag. It comes into what's in you to say. So I'll just give an example. I was on set one day, one of my first times ever on set, and you know, key PA or who the fuck ever comes over and is like, "Hey, can all you guys do this?" Right? And I looked around and I knew this was like not SAG. It was, all kind of a lot of the first gig for a lot of us. Um, there were three stuntmen that are actually still that are in the business with me now, and we talk about this gig and we laugh about how unsafe it was, and we shake our heads for working and not turning it away, But it was our first gig, so we did it. But I know I just looked at, when you fall, when you do martial arts, when you fight, you can just tell you can just see it in people's eyes when they're not confident about the question that they just answered. And he asked basically if everybody could just kind of take a straight back fall. And a lot of the guys said yes. And I just looked at them all and I looked at this guy and I was like, I'm not trying to be a dick to anybody here. I was like, but I'm just going to give you all a little bit of advice. I'm going to assume that if we get hurt, you're on your own.
Yep.
There's
Mhm.
no insurance, there's no nothing. You go to the hospital, you fend for yourself, you get hurt here. That's it. This is the risk we're all taking. And I looked at the guy and he goes, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, okay. That being said, I go, if you are not 1,000% confident that you can do exactly what I just showed you guys to do that fall every single time and not get hurt, if you've never done it before, you need to say you can't do it right now.
Yeah.
If you think you can do it, say no right now. So then basically me and the three other stunt guys, between the three of us on a rooftop fight between like a huge gang and another huge gang, we were probably a combination of 10 to 12 guys. That's how many of their BG backed out after I made that comment.
I
And
mean, I
only four
totally
of us were
get that.
confident enough
Because
to
when at
fucking do
least you
it.
get the insurance or if something bad happens, the union, you get your protections. But yeah, my first
It's just like a
job
Bollywood film.
was non-union too, the same. And they were like, all right, well, we're gonna do like a double jerk. It was me and another person tied
Hmm.
together. So you really don't know how you're gonna land. It was full concrete on that sense too. And we
Yeah.
were like, oh man. I was like, I didn't want like that
Hmm.
whiplash all of a sudden.
Yeah,
I
of
was like,
course.
for a non-union, however much they pay, a day to do that. But the Sun Coordinator was like, hey, what is the shot that you're trying to get on this one? We were able to put Matt's down because he stood up for the fact that
Yeah.
we're not insured
Well,
and not
you've heard
enough.
my high fall story. This is that same set. You know.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, this is the same set. This is the
okay.
yeah. This was 3 days before that.
Oh my God.
Before, but this was the what led it to everybody getting fucking heat stroke on the roof.
Oh my God.
Because during cuts, they kept all of us in our positions on the roof in 92-degree heat in Brooklyn.
Oh, the humidity then
Yeah,
too. Oh my God. Yeah, no, I agree. Like you trying to
you
not
have to
be
take
an
care of yourself.
ass and you like hired and you want to make sure,
You know,
everything gets shot, but you got safety definitely
always,
first.
always ask, always ask. If you don't feel comfortable, say you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
It's, it's nerves are part of the business. Um, and I think, in my opinion, when I'm like, everybody, you good, you never done, and that guy, that guy who's got that provider's like, yeah, I'm fucking, I blah, blah, blah. That's the guy where I'm like, I hope he fucking gets it. Like, I hope he fucking gets it. Like, I hope, and then they get it, and you're like, okay, I guess he's got it. But you don't, you kind of want to, when someone's nervous and you kind of help them through that or they're at least honest about it, you can kind of be like, okay, they're good. They're just, they just got nerves, and
Yeah.
that's fine. It's nice to know that someone's human.
Oh,
Um,
100%. I feel
so
like
nerves
not
to me,
getting
nerves are a
nerves.
good thing,
Yeah, I
you
was
know?
just gonna say nerves are important because if you're just too comfortable, especially depending on what the gag is, then more prone to all right, something can happen. You're
Hmm.
not worried at all, especially if it doesn't just involve you, but multiple people in whatever the job is. Yeah, yeah, that's
It's
crazy.
funny, like we were talking about stair falls, and everyone worries about the stair fall, like hitting your head. I don't worry about hitting my head on a stair fall. I worry about breaking my leg in a weird X in the banister that my leg goes through and I hit.
Yeah, how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
Yeah, yeah, because even
So,
I'm 5'6.5", and yeah, just trying to stay in a good enough ball to not get the leg.
when your ankles get caught on those, those are the things that I worry about, not so much the head injury. It's
Yeah.
it's the secondary injuries that'll get you.
Like the more you like look at certain stunts and you practice them, and it's like with everything in the entertainment industry, you watch something, then you see exactly like how they do it because
Mhm.
you do it, like how you're protecting your head when you're rolling down, kind
Oh
of, so
yeah.
that that's why you say you're not really worried about the head because you're always kind of in a protective way. It's more the other things, or I mean,
Well,
guess depends on the
I had to
stairs.
do mocap work one day and we were doing a stair fall and, a guy was punching me and it was, down like 9 steps. And, they build them on the steel scaffolding. So they built steps on steel scaffolding. And I had to go down, the scaffolding steps. And I went down on the first time and then I went to the stunt coordinator and I looked at him And he looked at me and he had a grin on his face. And I was like, I hope he's gonna fucking say the same thing I am. And I go, can I just skip the stairs and kind of skim on the wall and do like a, do like a Granby roll and just not even hit the stairs and just make it look like he just knocked me down nine. And he's like, that's what I was about to say. And I'm like, awesome. Fuck the steps. Let's just go down nine.
It's so funny. I know, especially I know for men, maybe you can wear them more. I know for some girls, sometimes you can't wear the gator
You
back.
guys have it rough, man. Sometimes you got to do shit in bikinis. Like,
I thankfully I don't have enough
oof.
experience to have done that, but I'm thinking the same. I know a girl, she had to go down like steps and she has different sizes, gator backs, protections, and even that was too big. And just like 37 takes of going down the stairs. But I feel like I like the gator back because sometimes it cheats to going down, but naturally, sometimes when you fall, you don't really roll, and then you can just you like kind of roll down the back
Hmm.
a little bit, surfing the back down the
Right?
stairs.
Oh, yes.
So that's really nice. But I think it's also my biggest bruise I've ever had was from a I was trying a different technique of going down the stairs, and I had bruised the side of my like butt cheek and hip like this big. It was just
Oh,
like
yeah.
so blue.
I call that, I have a spot on the back of my hip that that if I can, no matter if, even if they say no pads, I'll put a pad on it because for some reason, I'll find a way to fucking hit it, you
Your
know?
Achilles heel.
And sometimes, and also another thing is like if you can get away with wearing pads, it doesn't make you weak. In my opinion, it makes you smart. If you're on set and you have some knee pads on and you got to take a knee for, 20, 30 minutes, having that knee pad's gonna help.
Yeah, especially I realize having all the different sizes and thicknesses because depending on what you got to wear, like the jeans might be kind of tight. So I've used my small elbow pads on my knees before because
Mhm.
they were
Oh,
the
and
only
always
things.
have an extra set. I would say in your stunt bag, always make sure you have an extra set so except for my hard pads, I have two sets of everything in case I'm doubling somebody.
Ooh, smart. Yeah,
So
smart.
I have a set of pads for my double, and then I also have every other pad that I've ever gone through or whatever that maybe I've taken apart, I now use for spot pads, and I just keep them in an extra bag.
Hmm.
So I probably in my stunt bag or in my trunk or whatever, like I probably have enough pads for 5 people.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. It's so funny because you're the second person recording and you're the second person that also talks about or in the trunk. And I say, I already started doing that too. I got stuff in my back, but then I also just have the stuff in the trunk.
Yeah. Yeah, you
It's
have your
just,
go bag and then you have your like, oh, I have that. Let me go grab it.
yeah.
Because it's usually something for somebody else.
I always like, I didn't say you need it, but then I'm like, as soon as you think about you might not need it and you leave it at home like anything in
Hmm.
life, then you're like, all of a sudden need it. So I'll just keep it in the trunk just in case.
Oh, and I always keep a phone charger.
Oh, that makes sense.
You
Yeah.
always keep it, like a battery charger. You never know. There's so many different reasons that someone would need a charger on set. It's a good handy thing to have with a couple of plugs.
It's so funny when people have an acting background that's like from like being an actor going on set, you have like that bag anyways that yeah has your extra charger, the little battery, something to read if you can't use your phone, like all
Yeah.
the
Well,
little
I get
things.
yelled at a lot, like by Steve and whatever. They're like, "Well, how come you don't have any photos? Whenever you're on set." And I'm like, I leave my phone in my trailer.
Yeah, I'm the
I
same
do
way.
not bring my phone to set. I leave it in the trailer. And the reason I do is because I will put my nose in it and I won't pay attention because I have it on me. I have a daughter, I have a wife. Like, I will find a reason to look at my phone and then to trail off into fucking Facebook. So I just leave it in my trailer.
It's so freeing too
And
because
it
you
is
go.
because of who I am as a person, and I know I won't be able to not. Need to be focused. I need, you know, so I just leave it in the trailer and then it's out of sight, out of mind.
Completely. I find in that way also identity also don't think about did somebody need me? Everybody knows I'm not here. I'm not available all day. So if something
Exactly.
happens, that's is what it is. So in everything else, yeah, I don't want to get distracted either. So easy to quick scroll on something or just check like that
Yep.
little like
Go down the rabbit hole.
yeah, go down a rabbit hole. And I I am also a scary cat because I don't ever want to have my phone somewhere and then somehow somebody's like, "Oh, you got your phone, or are you taking a picture, or anything?" And I remember last year on the set too, like our holding was like driving like far away, and everybody else that had their phones in the pockets. And it's like, oh, they're like taking pictures, and then the film came out, and I was like, I literally have no proof I was
Mhm.
there at all. And I was like, I guess it just is what it is. But I read her, but it felt, I don't know, it's like when you go to another country and you don't have the cell service there and no Wi-Fi, and it just feels really freeing for that moment because you're so present and you forget what that's like we
Right.
still know what it's like because we got to live as kids without phones.
Hmm.
To just go somewhere and not have that in your pocket, not looking at it, not worried about somebody's trying to reach you. And it feels so freeing. So I totally agree. That's
But
why
you
I
do
also,
miss that picture with, with whoever sometimes.
yeah, that's why that does suck. And the funny thing is, there one day I went for a jet ski kind of training, and that was like somebody was like, "You never take pictures." And I was like, all right. I was like, I'm taking jet ski training. And I took this picture before what I'm saying happened. But I took this picture. I was like, hey, here. And then I put my phone away. And later I was parked somewhere and I was trying to talk to someone on another jet ski. And we drifted towards each other. And I was like, but it's on that hold, kind of like you're not really driving, the engine is not
Hmm.
on. And I was like, why is it drifting closer to you? And neither is wind. And then they like bumped ever so slightly. And I guess there was a hole in it before and it was kind of taped. And then there was like a hole in the jet ski.
Oh
And then the
shit.
guy is like, oh my God, because you were on your phone. I was like, I swear to God, I like when that happened, I was not on my phone. But the all other odds the day that I did have my phone out at one
Right.
point that happened. And I'm a person where stuff like that sticks with me forever because I don't want somebody to think of me something that's not true. If you don't
Right.
like me for who I am, I don't care about that. But don't think of me of something that I'm not. That's like for me
Hmm.
the most terrible. And since then, I was like, that's exactly why I usually don't bring my phone. So yeah, I'm glad there's another person that's like, yep, no phone stays behind.
Yeah, for sure.
So so we're nearing the end of this. So what's coming up? What's next? What's big either on the podcast for you or anything
Well,
coming?
podcast, we're about to finish up with season two. We got some cool interviews coming up for the rest of the season. And then I just had a cool audition for a co-starring role.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I guess I mean, it's literally is like the I get to channel my inner self. It's basically an angry guy from Queens. We're not a guy for being at his parking spot. So, you know, hopefully it works out.
All right, I'm crossing my fingers and toes and channeling it with you.
That should work out pretty good. And then but outside of that, yeah, just finishing up the podcast and waiting to see what comes my way. Stunt
Do you
life.
guys have any like Christmas events or stunt
Yeah,
meets
we
or
do. We
things?
have an event at the gym. Man, I don't have it on me offhand. But yeah, we have an event at the gym. We're gonna have like an open training and then we're gonna do a movie night afterwards and everybody can just kind of come and hang out and train with us and then
Is it
we'll
mystery
have
movie or like
we haven't decided yet, but we're gonna let people know. But yeah, we haven't decided what it's gonna be yet.
very cool. I'll like keep my eye out and see what that's about. But this was so nice to getting to know you, what your life is like,
This
all
was
of the
great.
things
Thanks for
you
having me
do,
on.
and just really cool. So if you don't know Paul, you don't know Steve, you don't know Film Fight with Friends, or if you're in New York, planning to go to New York, there's so many things you could do. Go to Breakfall Studios, listen to the podcast.
Go check
Uh,
out New York Combat Sambo.
yeah, for sure. There's just so many options. So thank you so much for taking the time and coming on
No
to the podcast.
problem. Thanks a lot.
See you on the next episode.